Comedy is...
What if Winston Churchill was a midget, for instance?
Comedy is kind of like a release.
Making people laugh.
Something that you can watch when you don't want to think about something.
Happiness. Comedy is happiness.
Or if it makes one person laugh, then I think it is comedy in its own right.
I've always wanted to get into comedy, and it's difficult to say why, because it's such an unusual thing to want to do. And most people say to me, you know, why would you want to do that? It's terrifying.
It's one of those things where it's just about making people smile, and I think that there's a lot of cruelty in the world.
Comedian, you walk in and it's, oh, how are we all, we well, and then sort of talk directly. If you talk directly to an audience, you do a show with them, and then they join in with you and they like you as a person.
I'm never going to do anything else in life. That's my objective.
The first gig I did was part of a workshop, so I went on a comedy workshop, like a stand-up workshop, and that was how I performed stand-up for the first time. Then at uni I joined the Comedy Society called Soul for Laughs, and we just write sketches together, we try out our stand-up material in front of each other, we talk about comedy, we perform it for each other, we make it together. Yeah, that's what we do.
I started off doing comedy at 7. I entered in, because all of my heroes are variety comedians like Ken Dodd, Morecambe Wise, the two Ronnies.
The reason I first got into stand-up is I got very, very drunk and thought, fuck it, I'll give it a go. At least then I won't have to pay entry. So that's the reason I even started doing stand-up, because I thought, you know what, I'm somewhat funny. I bet I could probably make a set out of this, and I'm really tight and from Yorkshire, didn't want to pay any money. So I was like, yeah, fuck it.
A place called the Thirsty Scholar, which geographically from where I am now is literally only up the road, and it's still a venue. And upstairs at the Thirsty Scholar, on the first night of a night called Stand Up or Be an Accountant, and I thought, well, I'll have a go, and thought no more of it until about the week before I bumped into him on the stairs, and he showed me a flyer with my name on it, and I went, oh, I'd better do this then.
How do I find work in terms of comedy? You've got to do as many gigs as possible, so they've got something to go on and they can see what you do.
There's a lot of really good comedians out there vying for far fewer spaces than there were when I started out. When I started out, there were fewer comics, there were certainly fewer decent comics, and there were loads of gigs. A comic who's been going as long as I have has done them all. I've done upstairs in a curry house to a Jewish cricket team. Sometimes there'll be I've done a stars in their eyes kind of thing where I've MC'd. There's nothing better than going on and mucking about and getting improvising a bit where your cardigan talks to you. You've been eating cheese, you've been eating cheese, greedy bastard. And it was just, it just worked. There's nothing better than having gone on with none of that. It happened in the moment and generated a load of laughs, and you come off and you go, oh, well, that's fun. That beats working.
I think I am a big fan of kind of surreal comedy, but for me, I like stuff that's a little bit more close to home, stuff that I found funny in terms of my life experiences. I'm a bit of a storyteller, so I'll say that really more than anything. I enjoy just telling stories and talking about how it's a very self-deprecating style, so I'll just talk about how crap my life is.
Often people who think they're funny don't have to go out on stage and try and prove it in front of strangers every night. Comedians are people who aren't very confident, who hope they're funny, because then that gives them a bit of self-respect they might not otherwise have about themselves.
I mean, there have been moments where I've thought, oh, I'm just not good enough for this. I'm not a good enough writer. I can't write fast enough.
When somebody said, what do you do if you had a bad gig? And he says, well, have you ever had a bad day at work? Which is essentially all it is, So if I worked in an office, the bad gig would be the day I went in with a bit of food poisoning and threw up on the boss's dog or whatever,
Yeah, being a female comedian, it is difficult because often, and it might be my paranoia, you can never be sure, but sometimes I do watch a female comedian and I think you can just tell that if a man had said it, they'd be getting a round of applause.
It's horrible, it really is. I think people are just less likely to take a chance on a female comedian, particularly in Beat the Frog, for example. I've seen a female come up and a male come up, and both of them are prepared relatively little. But the audience are more likely to have faith in the male's routine. They'll think, oh, he's just building up to it. He's going to say something really funny in a second. But if a female's not funny in those first 30 seconds, boom, that's it, she's out.
Some of the issues I have faced trying to get into the comedy industry. When you're a stand-up comedian, you're basically trying not to make a loss more than anything. Like, you have to be in it for a while to start getting paid for that sort of thing. I suppose travel, because you have to travel a long way for gigs sometimes, because there are a lot in Manchester, but you know, if you want to sort of get known on the circuit, you can't just stay in one city.
I mean, I travel much less than I used to because I just got slightly fed up of the inside of a travel lodge. The lifestyle's not very healthy. You can drink too much and eat rubbish because you're on the road all of the time, and you go to bed, you know, in a cheap, dingy hotel on your own. So what are you going to have for company if it's not a bottle of wine or something? Especially if you've got family back at home that you miss. It's two of the most important relationships of my life ended as a result of me having very successful Edinburgh Fringes, because to have a very successful Edinburgh Fringe you have to spend ages writing it beforehand, you have to practice it, which is agonising because the bits that don't work really don't work. You then have to do it, and you have to do the show 23 nights out of 24 all in a row, away from home, not earning any money. I mean, the last Edinburgh I did, it was a while ago now, but you know, I didn't drink for the whole Fringe. I actually stayed on my own. I went to the gym every day. I had a routine so that I was eating well and I was walking to the gig at the right time so that I could compose myself, and I lived far enough away that I could go through the show in my head on the way to the gig, like a sort of mental dress rehearsal. And you know, it did well, but it's not because I just landed on my feet. It was a lot of graft, and anyone that doesn't think that is in for a rude awakening. I think the rewards of comedy are one of my greatest achievements, I think, is not having had a proper job in 20 years, you know. The entertainment industry is full of successes and failures and thwarted ambitions and disappointments and missed opportunities, but actually to still be doing it, I do see it as an achievement. But also I've been lucky. This club's won so many awards. It's highly regarded. It's a bit of a phenomenon. I don't quite know why. I didn't know what I was doing when I started it, and it's just worked. So I'm very proud of that, and it's a club that people like coming to play. So I get the satisfaction of having created something that's really struck a chord and worked.
Come those doubts about whether I'm good enough to carry on or anything like that. It's just because I enjoy it, so I'll never turn a gig down, because, you know, if I can do it, then I won't say no, because it's just something I enjoy. So when I think I'm not good enough, sometimes it's just like, that doesn't matter, because you're still doing it.
I'm a bit weird, yeah. I'm a bit strange, but I'm inviting you to laugh at me. Do that any way you wish. If you want to laugh at me because you find me cringy, or if you want to laugh at me because you think I'm making a dick of myself, or if you want to laugh at me because you genuinely find that I'm funny, any one of those is a valid reason for you to laugh. And if I've brought a little bit of a smile to your day, then there's no reason for me to give up.